Well, we made it. Another year. It's Christmas. And if I haven't alienated you during this entire year with my sermons, sit back, because by the time this one's over, you're going to hate me really, really a lot. Today is probably the most anticipated day of the year, arguably. Everyone from little children to adults look forward to Christmas. Even atheists will admit that they don't mind the actual celebration, because invariably they have a friend or a family member that celebrates Christmas, and they benefit from that person's enthusiastic participation in the gift giving. But I have to confess to you, and as I believe some of you may already know, that I'm not a big fan of how Christmas is celebrated in our culture. Now, I'm not some neo-Puritan who hates Christmas because it's not mentioned in the Bible. And no, I don't have anything particular or any particular objection against lights and Christmas trees and Christmas angels or even the exchange of gifts. Now, the reason for my dissatisfaction is because everything that I've just mentioned, the lights and the trees and the gifts, etc., has actually become the meaning of Christmas. Call it what you will, consumerism, commercialism, materialism, etc. But that is now what Christmas means to the majority of people in this country, and I dare say around the world. It's a far cry from when we were growing up, because there was a time when stores actually were closed. Not only on Christmas Day, but there were many stores that wouldn't open on Christmas Eve. My wife and I were talking about this week, there are actually restaurants that will stay open all day today. We have lost a sense of what today is. Even among Christians, those who should know better, the meaning of Christmas has become anything but its true meaning. Just the other day, I heard it said that the true meaning and spirit of Christmas is being with family. That's not the true meaning of Christmas. I've heard it said that the true meaning of Christmas is love. No, that's not quite correct either, especially when we listen to how many different ways people in our culture today define what love is. We hear people sing the Christmas carols, and they emphasize everything in them but the true meaning of Christmas. They focus on joy and happiness and kindness, etc. None of which, or any of the previous factors I've mentioned, gifts, lights, etc., are in and of themselves wrong. There's nothing wrong with any of those things. But they, in and of themselves, are not the true meaning of Christmas. How many times have we heard the phrase repeated, peace on earth, goodwill towards men? Which, by the way, is a mistranslation of that verse, but I won't get into that. That is one of the most profound statements uttered during Christmas, and almost everyone misses the point. I heard, and this would have caused some people to swallow their tongues, I heard Glenn Beck this past week actually say that the point of Christmas isn't the baby born in the manger. It's what he did at the end of his life. Now, with all due respect to Glenn, and I understand the important sentiment he was attempting to communicate, concept of redemption, the importance of Christmas isn't about the end of the baby's life. It is about his birth. And it is for this reason, peace. Not the peace everyone assumes based upon the misunderstanding of the Christmas carol, or based on the misunderstanding of Linus's quote in A Charlie Brown Christmas, or even based upon the misunderstanding of the Luke 2 passage itself. Now, the peace the baby in the manger brings is a cosmic altering of all of time and history. It is a transforming of all of what life was like before his birth. The peace we are talking about, the peace that Jesus brings, is the peace that can only occur by one who fulfills Adam's original responsibility. It is peace brought about by the undoing, the reversing, the termination of thousands of years of hostility between God and man. Hostility due to Adam's revolt, due to Adam's sin, due to Adam's rebellion, rejection, repudiation of God's command. It is the reclaiming of the divine kingship by the divine king to end the war that Adam, the first earthly king, started with God. God's king in the garden, who was to rule and reign as God's representative on earth, turned over the kingdom given to him by God, and he turned it over to Satan. And instead of worshiping God in his temple sanctuary, on his temple throne in Eden, Adam committed cosmic treason and replaced the one true God with a false god, the serpent. And he placed the creature on the throne and removed the creator from his rightful throne. This was the state of the world prior to this day that we celebrate. As the line from O Holy Night tells us, long lay the world in sin and error pining until he appeared. But on this day, Christmas, we celebrate the halt to this false rule and reign of Satan. On this day, the culmination of the Advent season, we celebrate the coming of the true divine king, the perfect ruler, and the true expression of God's divine reign. And that in the birth of a baby. This baby is the heir of King David. He is in the lineage of the king priest Melchizedek. But more importantly than all of that, he is the son of the true God, King of the universe. This baby is the King of kings and Lord of lords. And from his birth on this day, through his entire life, culminating in his resurrection on Easter morn, he fought the war that Adam failed to fight. He fought the enemy that Adam failed to recognize. He fought the temporary ruler of this world, Satan, to whom Adam bowed down. He fought and defeated the false god and usurper to his throne, which his original counterpart, Adam, handed over without so much as a whimper. He won the war by his resurrection and is victorious over Satan. So Glenn Beck was only partially wrong. From this day to Easter and onward, we no longer have to worry about winning that war, for Jesus has already been victorious. Oh, we still have to fight the skirmishes, those individual battles that we all face. But the war is over. Does anyone here, or has anyone here, ever heard the names, hold on to your hats, Corporal Soshi Yokoi, or how about Lieutenant Hiro Onoda, about PFC Kinshu Kozuka? Didn't think you'd hear some Japanese names on Christmas, did you? These were 3 Japanese soldiers who were captured in the Philippines between 1972 and 1974, who were still fighting World War II. The war had been won. It had been over for decades. Japan had surrendered. My father and I were watching a documentary on the USS Missouri. We saw with our own eyes the signing of the armistice on the Big Mo. But these three men continued to fight. And in an odd way, we are those Japanese soldiers. The war with Satan is over. He's been defeated. Jesus has already conquered our enemy. But we still must engage in those skirmishes that we face daily until his second advent. And this is one of the reasons that the Jewish community of the time didn't accept Jesus as the Messiah. A baby can't be a military conqueror in the mold of David, and that's what they were expecting. But they failed to understand the Old Testament's detailed account that both a sacrificial lamb and a conquering Messiah were one and the same person, separated only by time. Our understanding of this concept is crucial to our understanding of what we mean when we sing and speak of and talk about peace during Christmas, as well as the true meaning of Christmas itself. It is peace with God. As those under the servitude of the ruler of this world, as we all were. Under Satan, we were, and to steal a line from Sting, with every breath we took, in open rebellion and at war with God. But with the arrival of that precious, helpless, perfectly holy baby, it signified the beginning of the end of that war for God's people, and peace was achieved by the redemption from sin he brought. It is, and always will be, the greatest armistice in all of human history. Nothing else compares. This is why we in the church mark the year off the way we do. All of these wonderful colors that you see, purple and green and gold and white and red and sometimes blue and occasionally black. Christmas, the birth of the Savior, reminds us of that peace his people have with God. It points to the day he will be revealed to the world. Epiphany. We celebrate his circumcision, his presentation in the temple, which drives us to his identification with us at his baptism by John, captivating us in his confrontation with the enemy, Satan, in the desert, and then the approach of the Lenten season, the season where we learn about and share the sufferings of the Savior in the desert. Not because by experiencing deprivation it will save us. That's not going to save us. Christ saves us. No, but because it aids us in our sanctification, and maybe, just maybe, we appreciate his obedience a bit more. And then this brings us to Passion Sunday, and then, of course, the following glory of Palm Sunday, when the King of Kings, the true Ark of the Covenant, the eternal satisfaction of sins of God's people, the Son of God, rides into his kingdom and assumes his throne in his city, in his house, his temple, and teaches us that in this event, he is the true temple. He arrives not on a military steed, but on a mule, because his combat with the enemy is sublime. It is spiritual, and it is complete. And it is pointing to that day when he will return on his military stallion, bringing with him 4 other horsemen in eternal judgment. This is the peace that we This is the peace this baby has brought. This is the peace of Christmas. This is the true meaning of Christmas. So as I mentioned at the beginning of the sermon, my issue isn't with the celebration of Christmas per se, but the how we celebrate. So maybe, just maybe, we can remember those Christmas lights point to the light of the star in the east and bringing us to the birthplace of the Savior. Maybe, just maybe, the songs we sing point to the host of the angelic choir exploding in praise at the birth of the newborn King, the Savior. And maybe, just maybe, those gifts we give and receive point to and remind us of the greatest gift ever given to all of mankind. God gave his Son, the Savior, who brings his peace and eternal redemption with him on this day.